How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Sea Change discussion. My name is Aaron Wisniewski, hosting the floor with Ben Gravy today. We're going to talk about a number of things. Before we jump into it, just a brief note about what has brought me here, why I'm excited to be here. I'm a flavor designer. And so I use the flavor of things, food and drink, to tell stories about people, places, ingredients. And part of my story is that at a certain point in my life, I decided that alcohol was no longer for me. And I've been using flavor and beverage to support other people and communities and culture that feel the same way. So I'm really excited to launch a non-alcoholic beverage at Sea Change today, and also hear Ben Gravy's story, because although his story is not about alcohol or the lack of, it's really hard to tell his story without that moment in it. So before we get into it, I'd love to have Ben introduce himself, and then we can start our discussion.
All right, how's everybody doing? My name is Ben Gravy. I am a surfer from New Jersey. And 2015, I decided to walk away from drinking alcohol. And since then, it's changed the entire projection of my life in so many different ways. I went from barely surfing to actually surfing for a living, and following everything that was inside of my heart and conquering a lot of my dreams. I have a lot more to conquer, but it's been an amazing journey. And yeah, I'm honored and blessed to be here today and sharing the stage with Aaron and to be in this room, so thank you.
So like I said, I definitely don't want to dwell on alcohol or that moment, but I am really interested in that catalyzing moment. Can you talk about the moment that you made the decision to change your life?
Yeah, so I was introduced to alcohol at about 16 years old, and had a very unhealthy relationship with it from 16 till about 26. And I've been on many downward spirals, and I've walked away from it a few times, and I always knew that it was something that really negatively affected my life. And what brought me to the moment of clarity was when I was 26. I had been pretty much on a binge for about a month straight, and I had a really bad knee injury when I was 25, and I had just overcome all the physical therapy, and I was like healed, and I like was patting myself on the back. And the way that I congratulated myself for like fixing my knee and being healthy again was like by destroying myself by drinking. And I had been drinking for a month straight, and every night I would go out, and it was just getting worse and worse, and it just felt like every day I would wake up with anxiety, and it was just this horrible feeling. And somewhere along the way, I started like imagining where my life could have been if I never decided to make these decisions that I chose. And I had a lot of resentment inside of my heart, and I would kind of just drown that. When I was younger, I surfed competitively, and I wanted to be Kelly Slater. I grew up thinking I was going to make the world tour. I was going to be, the best surfer to ever come out of New Jersey. I was going to be world famous. I was going to conquer the world of surfing. And I had let that go, and I allowed all that animosity and resentment to build up inside of me. And I really don't know what came to me, but I pretty much had this moment where I was at a bar, and I got in an argument with the bartender, and I got kicked out, and it was Christmas Eve, and I was out drinking instead of being home with my family. And I woke up the next morning, and I kind of looked in the mirror, and I kind of looked inside myself, and I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna go if I stop doing this, but like I can't do this anymore. And so I woke up, and I kind of, like the phrase that I said to myself was like, Ben, this isn't you. Like, this isn't what you were put here to do. Like you were put here to do something more. And for some reason, I woke up Christmas Day and I gave myself the best present I ever could have given myself. But I've been lucky enough. That was 7 years ago, so I've been lucky enough to never go back. Yeah, that was it. Like that was it. It took a month of getting wasted every night to get me to the point where I was ready to walk away from it and change my life.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
So you're a pro surfer, as you mentioned. And from talking to you, I actually learned a lot about what the pro surfing industry is and the pipeline there. So when you say you're a pro surfer, that might have meant something much different 10 years ago. So can you explain to me and to everyone a little bit about the traditional pro surfing process and lifestyle and kind of how you chose a different path?
Yeah. I refer to myself as a semi-pro, actually.
Okay.
So surfing for a really long time was a very structured sport, and it was all about the podium. It was surf your local events so that you could qualify for regionals, surf your regionals so you could qualify for East Coast, surf the East Coast so you could qualify for nationals, and if you're good enough at nationals, hopefully you get sponsored. And if you continue on that path in your amateur career, you'll get onto the junior pro circuit, then the qualifying circuit, and then you'll make it onto the world tour. So you had the world tour on this side, and you had magazines and publications on this side. So a lot of the guys who couldn't cut it on the world tour were very in the industry, and they would end up being in the magazines. So you pretty much had this one streamline to becoming a professional surfer. And a lot of people don't cut it. You know, there's 1,000 people on the qualifying series, and 32 of those people get to be pro surfers on the world tour and actually surf for a living, travel for a living, and that. And the publications, most of the guys in magazines aren't surfing for a living. They're getting lucky to be in a magazine. And then there's a few guys that can actually do that for a living. So that is the world of pro surfing that I grew up in. When I was 14, I won the East Coast Championships. I got sponsored by Billabong. When I was 15, I qualified for the United States Surf Team. I went to the ISA World Games. I was actually an alternate. I didn't surf in the event, but I was there with all these guys, all the most promising people in the U.S. And that was the path that I thought that I was going to take. And when I grew up and I graduated high school, I ended up getting cut by all my sponsors. And at the time, I was probably bringing in about $9,000 a year from sponsorships. And it was something that my parents really didn't think was sustainable for me. So I ended up going to film school. And in that time period, that was kind of like when I started to take my break from surfing. But yeah, as far as professional surfing before this new age, it was very streamlined to one particular path that you could take.
And so throughout this process too, it sounds like there's been so many transitions and so many discoveries. And one of the transitions that I really get a lot from you is this transition from external motivation to internal motivation, and really like listening to your internal voice and being authentic and following that, which is not an easy thing to do, especially coming out of a very structured kind of surf environment where like you do this and then you do this and you do this and you have to do this and be like this. So I'd love to hear kind of like when you first started or how you first started finding the strength and the courage to listen to that inner authentic voice and be like, I'm gonna do this other thing even though it's very risky.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Like the short answer is I wasn't even thinking about it. You know, it's my career is a complete and total anomaly. It's you could almost say that it's a mistake. But I had been, pretty much what happened to me was when I decided to get sober, I ended up having all these really crazy realizations. Like everything that I had bottled up inside of me for 10 years or 5 years or however long it was since I walked away from surfing and had that resentment towards the surf industry, and I would tell everyone that, oh, I'm over it. I don't care about it anymore. That's not something I want. All that stuff started flourishing out of me. And I eventually got to deal with it when I got sober. But the biggest thing that happened to me was like I grew up so much through the first 4 or 5 months of deciding not to drink. And I feel like I matured so much and I learned so much about myself. But I also became humbled. And I got to look back on my career and be like, whoa, like look at all those stupid mistakes I made from just being so self-centered and so like competitive and so worried about my surfing career and so worried about what other people thought of me or how my team managers perceived me, or maybe if I talk to this guy in this way, I'll be allowed to be in the magazine. Or maybe if I'm friends with these people, the judges will think I'm a good surfer and they'll put me through, or these weird like external validations that I just really believed was life. I thought that that's how you lived. And I carried that through my late teens and my early 20s, and I carried that outside of surfing into my regular life. I carried that into drinking, and my entire life was about that. It wasn't so much about myself, it was about kind of what other people thought of me, or like how I was gonna get through the world impressing people. And what happened when I got sober is like, I got to the point where I was like, I wake up every morning and I'm just here by myself. Like the only person that I need to impress is me. And I was in such a humbled place, and I started to make my YouTube videos to keep myself sober. So for me, I actually started my YouTube channel as I was gonna do 365 days of sobriety. And I was gonna wake up every day and check in, and then check in before bed. And I was gonna keep myself accountable for my sobriety through YouTube. And I was gonna just post it to keep myself accountable. And then something magical started happening. And because I was sober, I was surfing again, but I wasn't surfing the way that I used to. I wasn't going out there and trying to annihilate the waves. And I wasn't going out there and trying to surf like someone that I saw in a surf video. And I wasn't trying to be anybody else but myself. I was going out there simply to ride waves. And that's where I learned about the therapeutic values of surfing. And surfing pretty much has built me into the person that I am today. And not the surf industry, not the people in surf, well, the people for sure, but mostly the act of going out there and sharing that experience with nature. But I kind of forget the question, but I was... but
That was a great answer, Ben.
yeah, pretty much what I was doing is I started living my life for myself for the first time ever, and I think my videos, I started documenting and not thinking about what other people were gonna think of me, because I needed to be me for myself. I couldn't be anyone for anyone else. So that's kind of where I was at the time when I started doing this.
That's impressive. A lot of people live their whole lives and never get there. So, and what do you think, video, YouTube, that can sometimes be a hard medium to get your authentic self across. So what do you think your followers and fans and the people who saw you on YouTube, what do you think like really struck a chord with them? Like what really resonated with them about this, Ben Gravy that they were seeing?
Well, I think like in the beginning, I pretty much uploaded for like an entire year almost, getting about 200 views per video. And it wasn't about my views, and it wasn't about like likes or followers or anything. It was like about the connection that I was making with the people that were following. And I used to like just do really special things in the beginning. Like for 3 years, I responded to every single comment that ever came across my YouTube channel. And then like I would do like all these weekly giveaways and stuff, and I would make these cool t-shirts with like very positive phrases on them and however I was feeling at the time. And I would always like do giveaways and stuff, but it was really important for me to connect to like-minded people. And that kind of really built the basis for, I think, what my channel is about. It's just about being real and being yourself. But the thing that started growing my channel to a wider audience of people, and I believe that I do have followers that kind of don't understand the entire picture, and that they're kind of just following along for the fun and the surfing or different aspects. But there is a really dedicated core group of people that I share values with, and it's an amazing experience. And that's why I keep uploading. I just don't stop. Like, you know, a lot of my friends are worried about like, oh, I need to get 300,000 views or this or that, whatever. And I'm just like, I'm just doing it for those people. You know, I'm like keeping the dream alive for that small group of people. But the thing that started broadening the horizon was the novelty waves, and I started getting into the novelty waves once again by complete and total mistake, because I needed to surf every day because that's where I was mentally. Yeah. And through surfing every day, you start like getting kind of bored of going out front and just surfing the same wave over and over. So I just started looking like inside the inlet or like under the dock or under the bridge.
What is a novelty wave? And give us some examples of novelty waves. Maybe some of your like favorite or most absurd or most interesting novelty waves that.
Well, I think the definition has changed since I started doing what I'm doing. But in the beginning, I think 6 years ago, novelty waves were different than they are now, because like now it takes a lot more for it to be a novelty wave. Because nowadays river surfing is popular, you know, lake surfing is popular, surfing on the opposite side of the inlet is popular. But I would say anything that is looked at as different, as obscure, as something that, you know, if there's 10 people standing on the beach checking the waves, maybe there's only one guy looking over here, but there's 9 people looking this way. I think that would be the novelty wave. The wave that really was like the biggest catalyst for my YouTube channel to get introduced to the surf industry, I believe, because for a long time I was kind of just doing it with my group of followers, and we were just every day just waking up and trying to be positive, and surfing was a big part of it, but not at the forefront. But the surfing industry is kind of what pulled my channel into surfing. And so I surfed, there's a wave behind the Cape May Ferry in New Jersey, the ferry boat that goes from New Jersey to Delaware. And I had looked at it for years, and it's in the documentary, this section. But there's a wave that trails behind the boat because the boat is so bogged down into the water that when it leaves port, it sucks all the water out dry, and then the water follows the boat. And I went down there and checked it out one time with my wife, Jordan, and I became obsessed with it. And I started like trying to figure out how I could do this, how I could make this happen. And at that time, like 5 years ago, that was not a thing. They'd been surfing the tanker waves since like the 60s, but like ferry waves or kind of like DIY novelty wasn't really a thing. So when I finally surfed that wave, that was the first time that my channel really got onto a broader scale, and I feel like my passion for being sober carried into those novelty waves, and my followers like really like connected with that because they knew it was authentic, they knew it was real, and they knew that I meant it. They knew that I was doing it for myself, like I was doing it for real. I wasn't just doing it to get views. So I think that is the most important thing, and that's why I'm so connected to my followers, because I continue to do it for the sake of doing it, and for myself, for my soul, for my heart, not just because I know it's going to be a big video. So that's what's important.
I think that video might have been my introduction to you and like everything you've done, and it's pure fun. Like that's what's going on in that video is pure fun. It's not like for anyone else. I love that video. What's the thing that kind of like separates you from everyone else, if anything, right? You know, semi-pro surfer, YouTube channel, revolutionized the industry. Like, do you feel like there's something that, other than video editing skills, that you have that is unique? Or is there something else behind your success?
Not really. This is like the main thing that I try to get across to young kids when I'm like hosting contests or visiting Will's surf camp, scoot and surf. But I tell kids, I'm like, yo, first of all, I'm 33 years old. Like I should be retired in surfing. Like before YouTube, like surfers would retire at 28 like normally. And I tell them like straight up, it's hard work. Like I don't have a special skill set in surfing. I'm not a professional actor. I'm not the most amazing editor, cameraman in the world. Most of my shots are out of focus in my vlog. And I literally just wake up every day and this is what I want. And I visualize the day. I'm not visualizing 10 years in the future. I'm not visualizing a Maserati. I'm not visualizing these outlandish things. I'm visualizing, like, I have this pocket of time. What am I gonna do with it? How can I make this special? And I truly believe that maybe I was blessed or gifted with a mindset that is like, my glass is definitely half full, but it's hard work, that's it. There's nothing else.
Through that hard work, and you know, not single-handedly, but certainly leading the charge on through YouTube and through Novelty Waves and through his attitude, you've changed the surf industry, right? Like what is the surf industry now versus where it was 10 years ago? What's different? What's better?
Well, I think the most important effect that I've been able to have is like the revolution of taking the power out of the hands of a big corporation and handing it back to the people that are actually engaged and giving back to surfing. So for the first time, like when my YouTube channel became successful, it was kind of the first time that the surf industry had to be like, oh, uh-oh. They figured it out. Like, we're in trouble. Because like I was doing one thing and they kind of could make fun of me, whatever. Oh, the vlogger, like he films himself. He's, you know, like this guy's whatever. He rides softboards. He's surfing Novelty Waves, kind of a kook. But like then when Jamie O'Brien started vlogging, and Jamie's like one of the best barrel riders in the world, pipe master, complete legend. Jamie's just giving me all the credit for vlogging, for starting to vlog. And then now he's vlogging, and now he's taking the power back into his own hands. Then the industry was like, uh-oh, like we got a problem on our hands, because now these companies are not gonna come to us anymore, the magazines. They're gonna go straight to the surfers. And then we're breaking down that barrier of control of where a surfer has to retire at 28 years old. Now our destiny is in our own hands. And now, like, a lot of people will look at me and Jamie and be like, oh, competition. Or like Nathan Florence, Koa Rothman, all these guys have started vlogging. Even John has started vlogging. And I think Kai has a vlog too. He was here yesterday. And it's like people from the outside are looking at that as competition, but I look at it as like, I made the point, now they're validating the point. The point has been made, this is it. Like we are now taking the industry into our own hands and we're gonna control it. We're gonna control our own destinies instead of just some random guy who's maybe never surfed at a shareholders meeting being like, you know what, this guy, he's done. Now, like, they can't do that.
That's incredible. And you mentioned competition is definitely one of my questions is, as this grows, right? As this becomes not just a kind of fringe thing, as it's grown like it has, do you feel like there is danger for some of that structure to come in, the corporate ownership to come in, the competition to come in, and you kind of get a repeat? And how are you and the rest of these people kind of combating some of the same things from happening? Keeping it free, keeping it fun, keeping it individualistic.
Yeah, so it's definitely something that crosses my mind, but I think the magic of it all is, like we talked about, the authenticity. Like the driving force right now is YouTube and Instagram. And in my eyes, it's YouTube. So even WSL is broadcasting their events on YouTube. So as long as I never give away my channel, I never sign my channel over to a brand or an entity that is outside of my control, I am the driving force of my brand. I am the one standing behind it saying, yes, 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 this is the point we want to get across. This is what surfing is about to me. Here it is. I'm going to push it out to the world. So as long as we control the media that we're putting out, there's no way that they can take it away from us. Because there's the magazines, the surfing magazines that felt competition when vlogging started are now following our footsteps instead of leading the charge.
That must feel pretty good. To have all the power back in your hands and to kind of have this underdog hero's journey.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to even take credit for any of it. It's a weird thing. I honestly just feel like really lucky to be where I am, because I was not supposed to be a pro surfer. Like the surfing skill set that I was blessed with was not supposed to make a living out of surfing with.
So I want to ask you like a kind of like a values like code of ethics. I don't know what the right way to phrase it is, but I want to ask it like through a story about kind of like what drives you. And so like the way that I look at you and the way that I think about every day too is if you can tell this like kind of corny story. I don't know where I heard this, but there's two people camping in the woods, right? Night is falling and it starts to rain and they're scrambling to get a little fire started. And each of them gets a little fire started just before the rain starts pouring. And one person decides to spend the whole night trying to keep the rain out so the little fire doesn't go out, right? So they're pulling in branches and leaves and they spend the whole night exhausted, cold, and wet, and that little fire doesn't totally go out. The other person decides, I'm gonna build this fire up so big that it doesn't matter how hard it rains, it's gonna keep me warm. That's exactly what happens. You build a big fire, this person stays warm and dry all night because the rain just can't penetrate the fire. So what are the motivators or the things or the ideas, if you could kind of condense them, that you use to build your fire that have got you here since that moment of sobriety and that you're going to focus on for the next lifetime? It's a big question, sorry about that.
No worries at all. While you were telling that story, I did think of what you talked about with the competition between all these people that are doing this. And I think the beauty of how I look at it is, if I saw that as competition, then I would be the person trying to cover up my fire and protect it. But I don't. I'm like, let's go. Throw more vlogs on there.
Yes.
Let's build the fire.
There's enough fire for everyone, right? Yes.
But to be honest with you, I get to this point where I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I made it. I can't believe I did this. Like, I have like a signature surfboard, or like, wow, I have signature board shorts. That's it. Like, that's the pinnacle. And I get to this point where I'm like, wow. And like, I really appreciate like where I've gotten, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe it. And like, it's kind of like, I'm like happy with where I'm at. And I'm like, well, if I never get any further, then I'll be stoked. Like, I figured it out. Like, I did pretty good, and I'm all right with that. But the thing that really continues me forward, like, and truly driving forward to the future is, like, I'll do a signing, like with posters, and I'll go to like a surf shop, and I'll get a line of kids, and they're all stoked, and I'm giving them high fives and stickers and signatures, and then like, it never fails. There's always like this guy that you can kind of tell, like he's like kind of awkward about being there. He doesn't know if he doesn't know if it's like okay, or like if he's cool that he's showing up to come meet another guy his age, that he watches online. But like, I'll always have these guys come up to me, or like maybe it's an older guy, or maybe it's a kid who's struggling, and they'll just share their story with me. And a lot of times it's a really similar story to mine. And like, first of all, I always acknowledge like the fact that they came out. I'm like, thank you for telling me. Like, it takes a lot to put yourself out there like that to someone you've never met. But the thing that drives me forward is just that guy. Cause like, you can make fun of me all you want. Like, soft tops, not being the best surfer in the world, like the waves I choose to ride, they're kooky, whatever. Like, you can make fun of me all you want, but the fact that I've gotten not just one, but dozens, hundreds of these people who didn't believe in themselves at all, who didn't even have the confidence to pick up a surfboard, walk down the beach, and be in front of people and try it. The fact that they're out there just because of these little 10-minute videos that I put on the internet, like, that's all I ever need. Like, there's nothing else to me that can top that. So that's what builds me up. And it's been a weird journey because I feel like when I'm dipping mentally, emotionally, I'll run into one of those people and they're like, yo, you saved my life. And that's what builds my fire up. Just simply that.
And I think that's the perfect time to pause and turn it over to the audience to engage in a little Q&A for Ben and myself. I don't know if anyone has like oh yeah, we got a mic over there. I will come to you. Yes, the microphone will come to you. Any questions, comments? Anyone want to share their story?
Big Water Willie.
Yo.
Hey, buddy.
So some people have to pave the road and others get to drive on it. And you've paved the road, right? And now others are driving on it. And I feel like in a lot of the world, when you're the person that had to build the business or build the walk or whatever it is, a lot of people just drive on your road and never look at or never think about the person that built it. Think about public transit, right? You're on the train, you go to work, you're worried about your life. You're not thinking about who built the whole thing. So there's not a lot of like feeding the roots or paying homage. So just like, I guess the question would be like, how do you feel like later in life, like you're the God, you created something that the best surfers in the world are now doing. There's more people on your boards than any other surfer on the planet. In my opinion, you're the most recognizable surfer in the world, right? So moving forward, like how are you gonna kind of hold on to like that? Like you paved the road, and for the rest of time, if surfing, these people are gonna get to drive on your road that you built. Like how are you gonna hold on to that, the roots, like, or are you just gonna let it go?
Well, first of all, Thank you, Will. You are the man. You always support me, and I appreciate it. And the wise words of Will Scuden with an impossible question. I'll be honest with you. I feel great. Like, I never in a million years imagined that like someone like Jamie O'Brien would just be like my friend, someone that reaches out to me for advice on something, anything. Like, that's an amazing feeling. Or just all the accomplishments that I've, like, at times it feels like people don't recognize what I've done, but then like history speaks for itself because I've been able to get in situations with people that I've looked up to my whole life, like getting invited to Kelly Slater's wave pool, like a personal invite. It's like, how the hell does that happen? It doesn't. And I feel like no one's ever gonna come up to me and be like, yo, here's a medal. Like, great job, you started surf vlogs. But I feel like the silver lining for me is like all the relationships that I've been able to build and just the life I've been able to create through that. And like I said before, the more people that drive on the road, it makes the lanes wider, and it just keeps building. So it's an honor for me, to be honest. So I'm just gonna let it ride.
So your story is clearly amazing, and you've been able to really
Thank you.
put it on. So your story is amazing, right? And you've been able to really transform your life and had a clear moment of transformation, like a very pinnacle moment. So now looking back, and I know you were talking about, you feel like there was a lot of stuff you maybe didn't get to achieve when you were younger, or like that you kind of missed. What's like some of the main advice like you would give to yourself at that age, that young age, before when you started really getting into things? I know you talked about it a bit, but just expand.
Yeah, like I just believed in like the structures or the confines of other people's invention. And I thought that if I did this, I would get this. If I won East Coast, I would get sponsored. If I got sponsored, I would get paid. If I got paid, I could be a pro surfer. If I was a pro surfer, everyone would think I was cool. And it was just it's a continuous rabbit hole of essentially bullshit. Because when I left and I decided to come back, none of the goals that I had anything to do with anyone else's invention. So the main advice I would give to myself or anybody else at any age, at any point in their life, is who cares? The only goals that matter are yours. If your goal is to wake up every day and, I don't know, chop wood, maybe you could be the best at chopping wood and you can inspire random people in the world. If you want to do yoga, if you want to sail a sailboat across the ocean, the most random things, anything, work on motors. You never know who you're going to inspire through chasing the thing that's in your heart. And just because it's only in your heart and it's only important to you doesn't mean, and maybe it's not important to the immediate people around you, maybe it's important to other people who you've never met. And maybe you can inspire people through that. So I was never, like Ben Gravy was never gonna get anywhere following those structures created by competitive surfing. The only way that I was ever gonna be able to get somewhere is if I created my own structure and followed the things that I believed in. And maybe no one else believed in them in the beginning, but I feel like I'm at a point where like I've reached people with following these things that are inside of my heart. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
It's been rad to been following you the last few years and see all the novelty stuff. That's kind of how I came across you initially.
Thank
and
you.
The fact that you're building your community in such a authentic way and spreading positivity is pretty damn cool. Curious what you're most fired up on right now, and curious about, seems like you've built, like you said, paved a road, and you have kind of the opportunity to do it your own way, and you have been. What's the future look like? What do you want to do next?
Yeah, so thank you, first of all. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I've kind of been kicking around the idea of like surfing every country in the world. Like the 50 states was like this huge unattainable thing for me when I first started it, and I was like, it's impossible. But like that's the point, that it's impossible. So I've kind of started on this path of like introducing surfing new countries, and it's a lifelong goal. It's not going to be something I can do by the time I'm 40 years old or within the next 5 years or anything like that. But the thing that I'm inspired to do every day is like the thing that gets me going and continuing to push forward is the idea of like somebody who has seen surfing, knows what surfing is, and has been around it, sees one of my videos and they're like, whoa, that never occurred to me. Like changing the idea of what surfing could be, and I think through that I can change the idea of what anything can be, and just continue to expand on the idea that it doesn't necessarily have to be defined. It just is what it is, or it is whatever you believe it to be. So just kind of getting people to be like, whoa, that's never thought of that before. So.
Ben, thanks for coming. Always great to see you up here in Vermont.
Honored to be here.
So Ben's a surfer, but Ben is also a person who's created an entire community of people that extend well beyond the surf industry. Ben is a guy who's, of all the surf vloggers, I think he's one of the few people that we're mostly speaking to non-surfers. And mostly because your message is obviously much bigger and broader than riding waves. My question to you would be, first of all, do you recognize that initially, obviously you do, I believe you really understand that you're talking to people who are not just surfers. And I think you get that feedback a lot from your audience. What do you imagine being able to do with this amazing power and responsibility to be able to reach so many people who love having the daily Ben Gravy motivation, inspiration, and attitude? And how do you see yourself being able to plug into that community even deeper and create an even broader, bigger message with more and more people?
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Russ. Thanks for having me. Super honored to be here. You too, Rox. Thank you. Yeah, I'm kind of like still working on the idea of the fact that I'm getting there mentally, like believing in myself to that point, like to actually saying, Ben, like validating it to myself, being like, Ben, you do have this reach. You are in this position. Like it's something that I wake up every morning and I still am just like this guy, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And then maybe someone will walk up to me on the street. I'm like, oh yeah, shit, I forgot about that. I forget. But so I think like the most important thing for me is to continue to have people who maybe don't have the ability to like believe in themselves. I want to continue to spread that message that like you are important. You're very important. Everything that you do can impact the world in a positive way. And I want to like be able to continue to break through and spread that message, like you said, beyond surfing. And it's just like, just feel like I've been blessed with the surfing, whatever my ability to surf. So that's where I am now, but I see it broadening much beyond that. And if I can just get people to wake up every day and kind of just be like, you know what, like I am important. Like I'm gonna get out there I'm gonna do what Ben did, and I'm gonna chase what's in my heart, like what matters to me, and I'm gonna like just be a nice guy and be positive. That's all I ever need. And if it continues to broaden and grow, and this whole thing keeps getting bigger, that's amazing. But if it stays the same or gets smaller, that's amazing too. Because, like I said earlier, like as long as like that one guy is still getting up and changing his life, that's all that matters to me. But I'm super honored by your words, Russ. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say thanks to both Ben and Aaron. I really felt like this was one of the nicest interviews I've seen in the last 2 days, you know.
Thank
and
you.
The silence of this room as we were listening to you is just so, it's just so precious. And yeah, Ben, I have so many things I want to say to you. You know, I mean, I was walking through the parking lot at Ditch Plains with one of your boards under my arm a while ago, and that this 12-year-old kid who would never look at me otherwise, right, like stopped me and was like, "Is that a Ben Gravy board?" When I said, "Yeah," he's like, "That's so rad." And I walked away like I was 10 feet tall. You know what I mean? I was like, I am so rad right now. You know? So thank you for those moments. And you know, and also I've shared this with others. This summer, you know, Montauk is crazy, and it gets so crowded, and I lose my stoke. You know, and knowing you and having seen the documentary, I made a commitment to go find other waves. And what it gave me this summer is I've fallen in love with Montauk all over again. And I've had some of the most incredible soul sessions that I've had in my life because I've found these waves that nobody's looking at, and they were incredible. Anyway, I have a lot more to say, but so what I'm thinking right now in my heart is two things. One, you know, one of the things I find so impressive about you, young man, is your ability to just be authentic in any moment, right? And is that something that you just are, or is that something you cultivate?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. What you just touched on there is like something I've never thought about, and I think it kind of goes back to what Russ was saying about like the expansion of this whole idea. It's amazing that you can have my board, and then that moment becomes another moment that builds that positivity even further. And it's really cool to even know that kid is just like, whoa, like that's cool. And that gets him positive, which could just influence other people. But to answer your question, I have no idea.
You're just you. Okay.
I'm just up here, I'm just doing this, whatever this is.
Suspected as much. So then my next question is, and I mean this, like, you know, I can sort of feel how you might respond to this, but what can we do to support you and your message?
Wow. I don't know. Just next time that someone burns you, just smile at them.
Love it. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for speaking today. I think one thing that really stands out to me is your journey as an artist as well, and being a video creator and starting with these vlogs that were, you know, didn't get as many views as you were probably hoping, and sticking to it and believing in yourself. And I guess my question is, after you spent so much time believing in yourself, and you have somebody that comes into your life and is like, let's just like take this home, let's take this all the way. For example, like Wind and Waves crew, how does it feel to have them in your life, and like what kind of impact has it made in your life since you've met them?
Yeah, it's like, first of all, thank you. I appreciate your question and everything you said. But yeah, it's like it's just crazy. Like, I try not to get like caught up in that idea, but it's the validation of what I'm doing, like, because I took it so far outside of the scope of what like might have been acceptable, even to me, like subconsciously, like, I don't know, Ben, you know, like, what the hell are we doing? But yeah, for like Russ and other people that support me to step in and be like, hey, like, this is awesome. It just makes me realize, like, whoa, like, that's what makes me believe that my dreams are possible. Because when you get in a situation where other people who have big companies or have a lot going on, or like have all this outreach, like, see what you're doing, and they kind of just like align themselves with it and get behind it, it makes it just like adds another rocket to the jetpack. Like, and it just made me believe, like, whoa, like, we're really doing it. Like, I can't believe it. And then it's been great because like meeting everyone from Wind and Waves, it has been just like expanded everything I do so much. Like, I get to reach a whole nother part of the country, and it's been an amazing thing. But yeah, like that, just knowing that support is there is amazing. It's what makes me, like, even if I wanted to quit, like, I can't. You know what I mean? Because I gotta do it for all these people. So, yeah.
All right, I think we'll probably wrap it up then. Ben, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it, Ben. Thanks, man. Yeah.